Takaru was a down bad, useless mofo who was as single as your left sock after laundry day. However, everything changes when he decides to switch to an all-girls school to increase his chances, and he ends up clapping multiple baddies at once. It all started on his first day at his new school. Haruko gladly visits him to welcome him to the school, being her childhood friend. Getting to his dorm, she knocks on the door and opens it. Meanwhile, Takaru is trying to wear his pants, and as he tries to prevent her from seeing him like this, he trips over a stack of boxes which start to fall. In a swift reaction, he quickly tries to prevent them from falling on Haruko, but the idiot gets in a sus position instead, with his hand holding her milk jug. She knocks his stupid ass to the ground before properly welcoming him to the school. However, all this bozo can see are the nicely carved out melons before him, which embarrasses her. On the way to school, Haruko asks him why he chose this academy. The numbskull eagerly replies that it is because the academy has been turned from an all-girls school to a co-ed, which means he can see all kinds of chicks around, with different giant sizes, unlike when he was in an only boys school, where he almost became a victim of Diddy's sipples. However, Haruko informs him that this school is quite unusual, more than he may think. But bro doesn't understand what the heck she means because all he is concerned about is cakes. Haruko soon separates from him since she is on the student council committee, leaving him to find his way to the opening ceremony venue alone. He gets lost and surprisingly finds two idiots in a heated fight for a teddy bear. Just then he sees a Huddy hanging from the tree with her panties showing. As the girl tries to cover herself after noticing him, a sword comes flying from the fight scene, cutting the branch she is hanging from. She falls to the ground on Takaru, accidentally kissing him in the process. She quickly sits upright, but this only provides a 4K view of her divide. Noticing the cultured moron, she grabs his collar and pretends to send him to the glorious divide instead. But as she holds him, she shockingly sees a familiar crest on his chest, which startles her. He excuses himself immediately, and as he leaves, she reasons that she has just found the sworn enemy she has been looking for. But Takaru just excitedly runs off, unaware that he just bagged an enemy. Later, during the starting ceremony, the principal begins to address the freshmen about the school's principles, during which she says that they all have to use their elements to fight for the Abe Makins. But Takaru doesn't understand what she is saying, because all he intends to do in the school is to clap hard and study hard. The principal then calls for a fighting exhibition, and the girl from earlier, named Himegami, suddenly climbs the stage and challenges him to a fight. He becomes shocked, and Haruko immediately tries to prevent the fight by appealing that he is still a freshman. But the principal replies that he should have prepared himself for this while entering the academy. He reluctantly mounts the stage, and while they prepare to fight, Himegami orders one of her familiars to plant a timed lightning ball into Takaru's heart during the fight, which induces a shock to his heart and unlove him several days later. Meanwhile, Haruko gets worried as she sees Himegami's expression toward the idiot standing afar with a fighting stance he learned on TikTok. The fight soon begins, and they exchange fists for some seconds before Himegami suddenly unleashes her element to attack him. But a strange girl quickly intervenes and blocks the attack with the Makin, which the principal considers one of the 8 originals there are. This leaves everyone wondering who she is, but then the girl collapses into Takaru's arms. As he tries to wake her, she suddenly embraces him, excited to see him, shocking everyone. He wonders how she knows him, and, jealous, Haruko asks who the fag she is, to which she replies that her name is Inaho, Takaru's fiancée. She adds that she will protect him from now on and plants a kiss on his disgusting face. But the fool becomes excited that he can finally get laid for the first time in his lonely life. Later that evening, Haruko visits Takaru, still feeling jealous, but she shockingly finds Inaho in his apartment, making her mad. Inaho defends that the principal granted her permission to live with Takaru since she is his fiancée. Himegami also appears at that moment, and seeing that the room is large enough to contain 3 people, she also says she will move there. Hearing this, Haruko leaves immediately and returns with her luggage, insisting that she will also stay here to keep them in check as the dorm superintendent. This leaves Takaru wondering what the hell is happening on his first day at school. The next morning, Haruko wakes up and decides to check if Takaru is still asleep, only to find Inaho in a sus position with him, making her mad, and she slaps him. Later that morning, he steps out of his room and finds Inaho and Haruko cooking. But bro gets carried away by their bundle because those are the only cakes he wants to eat this morning. Noticing him, Haruko gives him some ice packs to soothe his messed up face and asks him to be well behaved next time. Bro heads to the bathroom after this, only to find Himegami standing in her birthday suit right before him. However, he is a man of culture, so he keeps staring like a hormonal jit until Himagami almost fries him alive with lightning. While they later have breakfast, they realize they are late and immediately dash to school. But Takaru falls behind since he has been skipping cardio. The girls get to school before him and manage to pass through the gate, but as Takaru approaches, the school gate almost closes, since he is slow as f***. However, Himagami uses her shikigami to pull him over the gate, saving him. Takaru wonders what that was, and Haruko explains that it's one of Himagami's abilities called invisible, and she happens to be the only one able to do that without a maken. A few minutes later, Takaru and Inaho enter their class, leaving all the ugly boys jealous of him and wondering if Inaho is really his fiancée. As the class begins, the principal with the extra-large cannons appears and tells the students they need to head to the infirmary to get checked up. Takaru and a co-idiot find this as an opportunity to feed their eyes with the wonders of God's creation. So they excuse themselves from the class and run to a tree for an uncensored view of diddies and gudais. As they assess and award points to the girls based on their God-given talents, they feel like this is paradise. But suddenly they hear Himagami's voice, making Takaru wonder if she is arboreal or something. 'Cause what the heck is she doing on a tree again? She promises to permanently send them to paradise and then jumps at them, crushing their faces to the ground. However, she lets them go, surprising her shikigami that she could control herself from sending them to an early grave. She replies that it's because she didn't feel the same rage she felt to Takiri yesterday, and she wonders why, even though the crest on his chest proves that he is surely an enemy. Following that, the check-up to find the student's compatibility with maken begins. When it reaches Takiri's turn, he gets carried away by how hot the teacher is. He puts his hand into the machine, but it reads, "Identification impossible." This shocks the teacher, as this is the first time this has happened since the school's founding. This matter reaches the authorities, and they wonder why this is happening, because he is just one of the three with unidentifiable elements. Inaho reveals that her elements could not be identified either, but the principal replies that hers is still quite understandable since she already had a mock-in. However, Takaru's situation is strange. Likewise, the third new girl, who has an obviously terrible hairstylist. Just then, Takaru takes the opportunity to advertise his stupidity by asking if his condition is serious. They all yell at him, stating how serious it is. The principal reveals that this makes him unable to defend himself in combat. But Inaho suggests that he wouldn't need to defend himself if he is a good boy and avoids battle at all costs. Takaru replies that he doesn't want to fight with girls anyway, and the principal grabs his nose, telling him not to underrate the girls in the academy, 'cause they would so whoop his ass. He would rather prefer to be in Diddy's party. After the meeting, Jen asks Minori, the principal, if Takaru is Sensei's son, as his character and eyes are very similar. She replies, yes. Then they talk about his maken. Following this, Takaru begins his search for clubs to join. After much searching and not finding what fits, he considers joining the photography club. Inaho immediately shows her interest in joining too, and hearing this, Haruko starts thinking dirty thoughts about Takaru taking sauce photos of Inaho, so she immediately rejects the idea. She suggests he join the Kenkei book instead, leaving him wondering what that is. Haruko reveals to Takaru that she's actually the club's president, and he asks for some time to think it over. As they walk to school together the following day, Takaru is curious about the Kenkei and asks Haruko for more details. She explains that their role is to support the student council in keeping order among the student body. Just then, a bomboclat named Kengo shows up, overjoyed to learn she's the student council's vice president, and tries to touch her. Thinking that the dude is aiming for her jiggles, Takaru rushes to stop him but ends up awkwardly grabbing one of them for himself instead. At that moment, they're interrupted by a punch to Takaru's face from a girl named Manaya, who scolds him for being a jerk. Haruko quickly steps in to defend Takaru, claiming it was an accident. So Manaya apologizes but tells Takaru, as she shakes his hand, that she dislikes morons who wear glasses but look like nerds. The situation takes a turn when they receive a report of a fight and rush to the scene, discovering Izuki facing off against a tough guy named Kurigasa, who demands that if he wins, she will have to be his girlfriend. Seeing him, Takaru and Kengo silently talk between themselves, speculating that this dude thinks he's Goku. He must be that desperate because he is a virgin with no clapping experience. However, Himagami snaps at them, saying he is at least better than them, who only know to edge to OnlyFans models all day. The match begins soon after, with Kuragasa making the first move. Azuki skillfully dodges his attack, leaping into the air and delivering a kick straight to his head. Unfortunately, her strike doesn't faze him because he's got the face of a tank. Kuragasa smirks and reveals the source of his strength, Makan, which he calls Makan Steel Fulminil. He counters with a powerful blow that rips apart Izuki's uniform, exposing her underwear. She becomes angry and demands compensation for her ruined outfit and underwear, but she wins the fight. The crowd watches intently, intrigued by how the battle will play out. Meanwhile, Takeru looks uneasy, and a classmate asks him why, to which he replies that he doesn't feel right about a guy fighting a girl. His peers try to reassure him, pointing out that girls in this world are far stronger than he assumes, but Takeru doesn't with that because that's not what he learned from the top G. Takeru decides to step in and stop the fight. But before he can do much, the girls hold him back. However, an unexpected glow begins radiating from his mouth, and he shockingly leaps into the fray to block Kuragasa, just as he prepares to deliver a decisive blow that could have sent Azuki into a 10-year coma. He knocks Takara down in the process, but this move leaves him vulnerable to Azuki's swift knee strike, knocking him out cold. Feeling victorious for taking down Kuragasa, Azuki's satisfaction quickly turns to embarrassment as she sees her panties entertaining the audience in the air. After shooing away the crowd that had gathered to watch the fight, she thanks Takeru for turning her panties into a sponsored ad. She demands to know why Takeru would interfere in such a reckless manner, but before he can respond, Haruko steps in to chastise him for meddling in a fight without possessing a muckin. Inaho, however, praises Takeru's ability to block Kurigasa's punch, which prompts Haruko to momentarily reflect on how dependable and strong Takeru has always seemed to her. Takeru explains that the outcome should be determined fairly, regardless of who's fighting. Hiroko acknowledges this sentiment, pointing out that ensuring fairness is the very purpose of the Kenkebu Club. Inspired by this, Takeru decides to join the club on the spot. Watching from a distance, Himegami is taken aback by the strength Takeru demonstrated earlier, which reminds her of something she had once experienced. Later, Takeru, Kengo, and Inaho visit the Kenkebu club room to formally declare their intent to join. Their journey takes an unexpected turn when they're brought to a hot spring, so they can all have fun in a naughty kind of way. Amid the steamy atmosphere, two boys, who cannot control their hormones, almost jizz in their pants upon seeing the different sizes of melons available to them in the club. Just then, a sudden commotion erupts as a wild moon bear appears and charges at them. This turns into a temple run scene immediately, but the girls step up, using their Maken to launch a coordinated counterattack, saving their weak. Afterward, they properly welcome the newbies to the group and introduce themselves as the Maken Key, leaving Takeru surprised. Following these events, the club members focus on training their new recruits, so their useless can become useful to the team. After an intense day of practice, Takeru is completely worn out, his body aching from the exertion. Seeing his discomfort, Inaho offers to give him a deep tissue massage to help him release some stress in the form of cream. As she starts the massage, Haruko, watching from a distance, grows visibly envious. Unable to suppress her jealousy any longer, she decides to join in so she can have a feel of him. Meanwhile, Himegami observes the scene from outside, puzzled by the fact that she can't seem to sense Takeru's power at the moment. Intrigued and suspicious, she reasons that she needs to understand the source of his power to really know whether he's an ally or an enemy. However, she gets pissed as usual and barges into the room, startling everyone as she steps on Takeru's back mid-massage. This shocks Takeru, but the idiot has to bear with whatever she does because talking can lead him to a glorious exit. Out of the blue, Himegami suddenly asks Takeru to go out on a date with her tomorrow, shocking him. The next day, Takeru waits at the designated spot, confused about why she invited him out, especially given her usual hostility toward him. Soon enough, she shows up and informs him that he'll be accompanying her on a shopping trip, during which he will be her lackey for the day, responsible for carrying all her purchases. Meanwhile, Haruko and her fellow idiots decide to tail Takeru and Himegami, curious to see if anything suspicious happens during their shopping trip. After some time browsing, with Takeru playing the role of a pack mule, Himegami strolls into a bikini store to check out some daring outfits. She soon slips into a changing room to try on a few bikinis, while Takeru struggles to hold on to her growing pile of shopping bags, as if his life depends on it. Inside the changing room, Himegami is struck by the thought that Takeru's scent is so similar to her brother's. Meanwhile, Takaru's hands start to go numb from the weight, and he stumbles, losing his balance. This grants him a sneak peek into Himegami's exclusive content, but the angry bird delivers a swift and merciless stomp to his sorry face. Later, at a restaurant, the two are surprised to see Azuki working as a maid. Spotting Takaru, the very guy who gave her plot-free publicity earlier, Azuki's anger flares up, making Takaru realize that today's lunch will not be digested properly. She soon approaches with a pie, but when Takaru spots it, he comments that he doesn't like green peas. Azuki tells him that since he is picky, she will also give him the liberty to pick how he wants to die. Roby comes running in, scared, and immediately tells her it was just a prank for his YouTube content. After the meal, Takaru and Himegami leave the restaurant and get into a conversation. Takaru tries to rizz her up, but Himegami quickly snaps back to reality, reminding herself of her original goal. She immediately grabs his shirt and demands to see his chest, determined to examine a mysterious mark she's been thinking about. Takaru, confused and alarmed, tries to stop her, but their interaction is interrupted by three fools who come charging in. Hopelessly simping over Himegami, but Himegami hates idiots so much that she summons her shikigamis to dump them into the nearby river. Just then, another fool shows up and insists on challenging her to a fight. Without hesitation, he activates his Mock and Blade Snake and charges forward, but she effortlessly evades his attack. Frustrated, he launches a second strike that sends her tumbling into a nearby river. Takaru leaps in to rescue her, but ends up falling in as well, accidentally kissing her in the process. As the attacker assumes victory, Takaru pulls off a move that would make Bruce Lee consider being his disciple, landing gracefully on the ground. Without missing a beat, he rushes at the guy and delivers a powerful kick, sending him hurtling through the air. The attacker retaliates with his blades, but suddenly a glowing crest materializes on Takaru's chest, crackling with electricity. Himegami recognizes the power instantly, deeming it the same as her brother's. She calls it the convergence of the soul, blood pointer.